There is a way to measure a person that does not look like a measure at all. You hand them a wooden spoon, a bowl of still water, and a clouded room. Then you ask them to cross that room without spilling. Dean 27 hated this test. Too simple, too slow. Not enough enemies to justify the pulse beating at the hinge of the jaw. The house was small, smoke-streaked beams above, tables pushed against walls too narrow for their ambition, a cradle creaking somewhere behind a curtain of woven reed. Voices rose and fell like weather. Feet moved without rhythm. It was not a battlefield. It was worse. It was ordinary. "Why the spoon?" he asked, already suspicious, already searching for the hidden blade inside the task. "Because," I told him, "the room obeys it." He laughed, a single bright, brittle sound, and then the surface of the water trembled. Not from his steps, from the steps of others. 3 men arguing about something so small that even the argument seemed bored with itself. A woman carrying embers from the hearth to a neighbour's home, each footstep a puff of warm air against the cold floor. A child running barefoot, the dog behind the child trying very hard to understand joy and failing loudly. All harmless things, unless you were water in a shallow bowl. He started with speed, spilled twice. Impatience gathered like heat behind the mask he wasn't yet allowed to wear. Then he tried with anger, spilled 3 times. On the 4th attempt, something softened, not in him, but around him. He stopped looking at the bowl. He watched the room. He moved when the child paused to fix a thong on a sandal. He passed the arguing men in the brief breath between one complaint and the next. He let the woman's heat brush his cloak, absorbing the shift in air so the bowl would not have to. Not force, not dominance, just noticing. When he set the spoon down and the surface did not ripple, I nodded. "Not a fight," I said. He nodded back, and for once the nod did not look like a threat. But the lesson did not end there. A test is only half a truth until the world answers it back. Later, outside, the village was settling into dusk, lamps being coaxed to life, meals ladled into bowls, goats arguing with their tethers in long, drawn-out vowels of complaint. Dean 27 stood near the boundary post, the wooden spoon still in one hand. He was turning it over and over, as if the grain of the wood might confess some deeper trick he had missed. I walked to him quietly. He didn't startle, a good sign. He simply said, "It's too small a thing. How can a lesson fit inside something this small?" "Because small things decide the large ones," I told him. "The room is a story. If you cannot read that one, you cannot read anything larger." He frowned at the spoon, not in anger, in thought. A rare and precious sight. To test the settling of the lesson, I tilted my head toward the goat pen. A young herder was struggling with a latch that fought back harder than any wolf. "Go," I said. "Help him. But do it the way you carried the bowl." He hesitated. Another good sign. Then he walked to the boy with no intention in his shoulders, no weight in his stride, only presence. A simple, steady calm. The latch loosened under his hand, as if relieved to be understood. The boy nodded thanks. Dean 27 nodded back, and neither one of them spilled anything that mattered. Remember this, child. Most days you are not the point. The room is. Some days, child, the world does not break or warn or whisper. It simply misses a step. That was the morning day 27, and I walked the lower trail, checking the herd for signs of late-season sickness. Nothing dramatic, nothing worth remembering. Until the jay refused to land. It came in fast, wings tucked, angle perfect, then froze mid-arc, as if the air had forgotten to let go of it. Its flight stalled, legs dropping, talons reaching for a branch that wasn't where it was supposed to be. The branch was exactly where it had always been. The air was what had changed. The jay recovered at the last possible breath, beating its wings in a panic of blue and grey, scolding the world for its betrayal. Day and 27 watched it with narrowed eyes. "That wasn't me, was it?" he asked. He hated when things behaved strangely around him. He assumed blame long before he assumed cause. "No," I told him. "That was the world choosing the wrong moment." He didn't like that answer. We continued toward the paddock. The apprentices were mending harness straps, their tools scattered across the grass. One boy held a chisel, a simple iron thing with a clean, honest edge. He struck the wooden brace, and the tool sank too deep, far deeper than force alone could justify, almost as if the wood wanted to swallow it. The boy yelped and dropped the piece. Day and 27 bent to pick it up, rolling the chisel between his fingers. "It's biting wrong," he said. "Describe it," I pressed. He scowled. "It's pulling instead of cutting, like the grains running the wrong way inside the wood." A second strike proved him right. The chisel veered sideways, a small, sharp rebellion against the physics it had served faithfully for years. Before anyone could argue with the evidence, the wind rose and fell in a strange, stuttering breath, not blowing from one direction or another, but folding in on itself like cloth caught on a nail. The grass leaned in a ripple that had no source, then everything stilled again, too quickly, as if someone had slammed a door on the weather. Day and 27 tensed. Not fear, recognition. That instinct that told him something invisible had stepped too close. He turned slowly, eyes scanning the tree line. Behind us, the trough water rippled, not outward, but upward, as though something beneath the surface had reversed the idea of weight for a single heartbeat. The ripple rose, quivered, shimmered with the effort of defying itself, and then collapsed back into honest gravity. The apprentices backed away, muttering. Day and 27 moved toward the trough before I could stop him. He crouched, dipped a fingertip into the water, then lifted it and watched the droplet fall. Except it didn't fall. It clung to the air for a moment too long, stretched like resin, then broke reluctantly and touched the ground as if remembering its job only at the last instant. He looked up at me. His voice was quiet, but the quiet of a drawn bow. "Something's wrong." Yes, but not in any way a blade could reason with. I placed a hand on his shoulder. He didn't flinch, his first victory of the day. "This is the middle of it," I told him. The moment when the world tries to hide the fracture by behaving almost correctly. He frowned, jaw tense but no longer ready to strike. "What do we do?" he asked. "Pay attention," I said, "and do nothing fast." A goat bleated nearby, a long, confused sound, and we turned to see it stepping sideways, as if the ground had shifted beneath its hoof, and only it had felt the true angle of the earth. 3 steps later, the angle was gone. The world had corrected itself, or pretended to. Daen 27 breathed out hard through his nose. He hated the in-between moments, the ones that weren't danger, but weren't safe either. "Middle stories," I said, "are the ones that test your listening." He didn't look convinced. He rarely did in those days. But he followed me back toward the rise, eyes scanning the world for the next small betrayal. "Remember this, child. Beginnings whisper, endings roar. But the middle walks beside you, changing its mind with every step you take." Night had left its claws in the hills. We heard the first wolf long before the flock did. Thin snow, thin moon, nothing to hide a hungry thought. Daen 27 put a hand to the hilt and waited for permission that would not come. "Not yet," I told him. "If you answer hunger with hurt, you teach the night the wrong lesson." We walked the perimeter as if we were only 2 men with lanterns and an argument to finish. The flock drowsed in the lee of a stone wall. The village lay behind us like a handful of banked coals. Nothing here wanted drama. Not even the wolves. He glanced at me, Daen 27, all sharp readiness and the good impatience of a blade that has learnt too much from war stories. "It's only 3, his look said. "Let me make this simple." "Simple," I murmured, "is costly." The wolves watched. They will always watch. You can tell when they choose you over the flock. Ears tilt, eyes widen. The pack rehearses you in their minds. We rehearse them back. Past the boundary stone, I set down a strip of meat salted 2 nights prior, far from the lambs to be mercy, close enough to be message. He made the shape of refusal with his mouth and kept it behind his teeth. Good. A lesson holds better when it has to struggle for its footing. Wind carried our heat the wrong way. I stepped to the left to spoil the scent line, and he mirrored without thinking, presence narrowing, heartbeat easing. The lantern light steadied. The first wolf came on a curve, the way water finds low ground. Not brave, simply hungry. She took the salt. The second crept after the scent, uncertain, remembering a winter that had not been kind. The third, every story has a third, tested our shadow. Daen 27's hand rose a finger's width. I shook my head. He did not like that. He liked what happened next even less. I lifted the lantern a handspan higher so our silhouettes grew large against the snow. 2 shapes the size of a problem a lone wolf does not wish to solve. Then I turned my shoulders not toward the wolves, but away from the flock, offering an argument the night could accept. This path is easier. This food is yours. That food is not. The bold one hesitated. A breath. Another. Far off a sheep sneezed. The sound skittered across ice and tried to be important. It failed. "Now?" he whispered. "Now, if they forget," I said. They did not forget. Not that night. We walked again, not to chase, but to make the room smaller, 2 arcs of light pressing the dark into a narrower choice. Behind us, the flock settled into its old dream, grass that remembers summer, stones that remember sun. At the far marker post, Daen 27 stopped. Words fought for order and lost. He settled for, "We could have ended it." "We did," I said. He frowned, so I gave him the whole of it. "If you kill the hungry thing first, you teach the night to come back louder. Return hunger, not blood. Turn a hunt into a habit, and a habit into a road away from the door." He looked back toward the strip of salt meat, now only a dark smear in the frost. The wolves were ghosts again. "Mercy," he said, but he made it sound like a question. "Direction," I said. "Mercy is what you offer when you can afford the cost. Direction is cheaper and lasts longer." We stood there until our breath matched. Lantern up, lantern down. The world took the hint and quieted with us. On the way home, we passed a low shed with a roof that liked to come loose in a west wind. A splintered latch rattled against the plank. He paused, then fixed it with 3 movements that made no noise at all. I did not praise him. Some days, praise is a kind of spill. Remember this, child. Keeping a village whole begins before the first cry, and it ends where the wolves decide to turn away. Most nights, there is nothing to count. Only choices you will never hear bragged about on the road.
This transmission completes its resonance. You have received a quiet dispatch from the Quotient Chronicles. To trace further threads in the cycle, visit aegiscycle.uk and continue your journey. Walk in coherence.